the very, very good news that I don't think we should step over and we would be remiss to not celebrate is that the AICPA and NASBA have finally put something out, which is an alternative to the 150-hour rule, right? So for years and years and years, we heard it wasn't possible to get rid of the 150-hour rule. I came on the show in early August and said, guess what? The California Board of Accountancy has advised their staff to write some regulations or that are going to be an alternative. I think it's a big domino, and it has been a big domino, right? So now finally, I feel like very, very good news, more clapping to happen, that we're seeing something with a bachelor's degree that will be considered an equivalent to the 150-hour rule. And that is big. Now the question is going to be, what is going to replace it? And that's a big question. So what the AICPA and NASBA have put out is that an equivalent to 150 hours, someone would still be required to earn a bachelor's degree. So you're going to see, just for what it's worth, a move away from the numerical number of units, because there's conversations in higher ed that the number of hours to get a bachelor's or master's might change. So we're going to go to language. It's going to say bachelor's or master's. Here it's saying a bachelor's degree. They're going to also have to complete 1 year of general experience, pass the CPA exam. But the real kicker in here in this particular proposal is they're also introducing something new called a competency-based experience pathway. So this is not going to come in lieu of the already existing general experience that the state boards are the ones that handle today. They're saying, hey, we want to insert something or ourselves into this process with this competency-based experience pathway.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. This chart here on the screen is extremely confusing to me. And we actually misreported this when we first received it, because it says 1 year of experience, not 2 years of experience. And so I thought initially that it was going to be bachelor's degree, 1 year of experience, and then whatever this competency-based experience pathway is. But the competency-based experience pathway is like another year of experience, right?
Correct. If you read the fine print, it's 2,000 hours. And it's not just any 2,000 hours, it's 2,000 hours that right now they're saying has to be done in 8 different competencies, right? So the passion that I have for this subject and sort of what brings me to this conversation is my career progression includes being a campus recruiter, so talking to thousands of students about the educational requirements they need to be eligible for CPA licensure, so we would hire them or not. And then being a learning and development manager in the firm who was responsible for all the initial licensure. Do you know how hard it is to help someone sign off on their experience? Right? In California, when I had that role, there's 2 types of license. There's a general license, and then there's an attest license, which makes sense, right? If someone's going to sign off, they should have stricter requirements. Totally get it. But that's not easy to actually track and staff people accordingly. And so now we're going to put in an additional 2,000-hour experience requirement on 8 different subjects. It's wild. It's in the actual practical application, I think it's going to be very bureaucratic if it goes through.
So I was hoping that we would go back to the previous model, or just add that in to the options, to the different pathways, where it was very simple. It was 120 hours of education and 2 years of experience. And the experience for both years is like the experience requirement now, where it's just a sign off by your supervisor, who sometimes has to be a CPA, sometimes not, depending on the state. And it's just hours, right? Do your 2,000 hours or 4,000 hours, whatever it is, right? But it's not that. It's a lot more complicated.
So there's the checklist. We looked at that because that's what we thought. Like, oh, somebody has to go through and say they have these competencies. But you're saying, Amber, if I'm hearing correctly, whoever's signing off on that checklist needs to make sure they did X amount of hours in each one of those competencies.
I haven't read that much fine print. I know it's 2,000 total hours, and they have to demonstrate 7 core competencies. And then the 8th is what they're claiming as flexible, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with what they did with CPA evolution. When they modified the CPA exam, they took out the BEC section and they added in discipline section so people could study what is more relevant, what they're more interested in, which I think is a wonderful idea. But they've kind of taken that quote unquote flexible model and thrust it into here. So you see 7 core competencies and then a choice for your 8th competency. So it's quite convoluted. I think. I mean, I know what it was like to be in a firm to try and help people through this, and I'm like, my eyes go sideways when I see all this stuff.
Yeah, the thing that bothered me when I saw this, or the potential issue I saw, having been a manager in a large public accounting firm, is that this certification form is going to become the responsibility of managers, directors, and partners in firms. And are we seriously expected to evaluate all of our staff for all of these competencies? It's a lot of extra work, unless I'm just checking yes and signing off on it, in which case it's...
What's the point of this?
What's the point, right?